Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Keys to AWS Optimization, where we have an exciting episode today talking all about using AI with CloudWatch to drive observability. Something, if you are a FinOps person and you are going to be tuning in to watch this, something you might not know a ton about. So I've got some awesome guests here to chat through this with you. So stick around to learn all about some of that with some demos as well. But let's kind of kick into our kickoff question, which is, have you had a frugal week or a splurgy week? Helen, why don't you go first? Frugal or splurgy for you?
Oh, frugal. I've been with my customers all week, so I haven't had much of my own free time this week. I will make up for it this weekend, I promise.
Yeah, that was a splurge. Treat yourself to something on the weekend. Kevin, What about you?
So definitely splurgy for me. My daughter just started preschool, so we've been getting her all kinds of stuff, toys, candy, fun stuff. So also costs a lot of money. So definitely splurgy.
You've got some for us though, right, Kevin?
Yeah.
Of course, Helen.
Yeah. I'm expecting a shipment of candy. That's exactly what people who know me, who watch the show regularly, have done. I have like an M&M obsession. I love them. People have actually brought them to events for me. So if you see me at an event, I'm coming. Americans, I'd love some candy. Which is brilliant. When you said as well that she was starting school, I was thinking, okay, so she needs like backpack and pencils and you're like candy, toys. You're a good dad. That's what I mustered from that.
Like it's like positive reinforcement. You have to make them try to like school. So that's the plan, at least. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, well, we've got some people. So hello, everybody watching. Please feel free to drop comments, questions in the chat. Let us know, where are you watching us from? And don't forget to give the video a like, or if you're watching us in any of our channels, then you can hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with any other content released with our shows. But yeah, chat, let us know where you're coming from. And all through the episode, make sure you drop in any questions about our topic today. But let's get into it. So welcome everyone to the Keys to AWS Optimization, the show where we share stories, concepts, and solutions to help you unlock your spend at AWS. My name is Steph Gooch, and I am an SA advocate here to help you with all of your optimization questions. And with me are some awesome guests. And like I said, we're going to be diving into a bunch of different elements to do with observability today that can be connected to how you make sure that you are watching what's going on with your infrastructure and what's going on with the application, so that you don't let anything kind of run wild in your account. So we're going to be looking at some logging and metric anomalies detection. We're going to be looking at a solution that these guys make that you can get access to in a blog, and also into Sir Amazon Q AI investigations, some stuff that I know nothing about, but these guys are experts in, so they're going to teach me and you all about it. What have we got question-wise? So watching from Bolivia, amazing. And from Qatar, and hi everyone, have a good day. Thank you, have a good day too. So I'll hand it over to my guest. Let's do the 1 minute origin story. So Helen, why don't you kick us off with this 1 minute origin story?
Well, hi everyone. I'm a Scottish lass now living in Canada. I started my career as a physicist with a love for data and for understanding the world. And my entire career has revolved around understanding data, how we use it to learn, to automate, to improve. And for the last 10 years, I've been in the observability world, 4 of those in AWS, including a 2-year stint as an observability specialist. And right now, I'm a solutions architect supporting local customers in Alberta in Canada.
Wow, awesome. All right. And then Kevin, why don't you go for it too?
Yeah, I'm a specialist solutions architect, specializing in cloud ops, which is, of course, what we're talking about today. I am based in Tampa, Florida, and have a long background of ops, data center ops, investigation type stuff. I've been doing this for a long time, and yeah, happy to be here today.
Great. And we've got some other comments, questions. People from India, which is awesome, from Colombia, and from the USA, classic, Costa Rica as well. So thank you, everyone. Excited. And let's get a poll going as well. So what I would love to do, if you haven't been with us before, then when we do polls, you comment in the chat 1, 2, or 3. And the question we have is this your first time watching an Amazon live stream? 1 for yes, 2 for no, 3 for basically I live here. Kevin and Helen, have you guys watched a live stream on here before?
Is it really wrong to say no? But I will now.
Yeah, you're going to watch yourself back. That's great. And don't forget, guys, you can catch up with all of these on things like YouTube and stuff like that. So
I've watched one, but I've been on them a few times. So I don't like to watch myself. So yeah, first time.
I'm just so bored. I'm watching. Love it. Okay, great. Some people who have not seen us before, and some people who are basically live it. Thank you, chat. So let's get into today's actual topic and kicking off with observability. So Helen, why don't you give us a background on what is observability?
Yeah, so when we build our systems, we've got a need we're trying to serve for our customers. And we need to make sure that that system fulfills that need. And this is where observability comes in to help us understand our system's behavior. So it's the ability to see, is it functioning correctly? Is it fast enough? Are there any errors? It's about being able to ask new questions and investigate problems we didn't even anticipate having. Everything is so fast, the technology is changing all the time. It's really important we don't have downtime. Things are getting complex, and observability helps us reduce that downtime and focus on improving our customer experience.
Awesome. So what does it actually help you with? So you said kind of being able to see this information, but what are maybe some specific cases in which observability is key for customers?
Well, almost everyone starts with wanting to ensure uptime of their system. In this case, observability helps them understand when their customers have an issue, ideally before their customers tell them about it. So proactive observability is a big thing, but there's a lot of people where it's around incident resolution, and that's their core function of observability. But it's way more than that too. It's about understanding customer experience. It's about understanding the health of key functionalities like if I was doing an e-commerce application, can I log in? Can I search? Can I pay? It's about looking at where performance can be optimized. Where are the bottlenecks in your system? Where are certain groups or certain parts of your system struggling and you might want to spend some development time? And when we have that rich data, we get to understand patterns of frequency, of impact. And so then we can plan future developments. We can look at automatic remediation for things because we can catch stuff. So there's tons of really useful stuff, including even broader audiences like marketing.
The marketing team's like, whoa. So someone's actually put in the questions, this title says AIML, but the stream says observability. Sus. But it's a good point because we're going to dive into how the AI kind of world connects and what tools are available with this. And maybe this is a good segue for another question, which is how does AWS use AI to enhance real-time monitoring and incident response?
Yeah, so AI has been used within Amazon CloudWatch for quite a number of years. For example, anomaly detection on metrics is a really good one here. This is probably one of the earlier cases of using AI to understand the patterns our metrics have. Mm-hmm. So imagine, let's think traditional here. Let's think infrastructure for a minute. So let's say you have a server running at a certain CPU. And that's quite easy to kind of go, well, when I get above 80%, I kind of need to care. I might need to do something. But what if you have something that is not so fixed in terms of what is a problem? Maybe it has variances daily or weekly. Maybe you don't really know what the baseline is because it's new. And that's where anomaly detection on metrics helps. So what happens is we build an AI model. You pick your metrics and your statistics, and we build an AI model for you. And we basically set bands, like upper and lower bands, where we say, your data should fit within this. Mm-hmm. And then you can set alarms when it goes outside of that, instead of when it goes above 80%.
Okay, so kind of showing that spacing that you should be aware of. So you mentioned anomaly detection, and that's something that we're going to go into, and Kevin's going to do a demo for us focusing on metrics with anomaly detection. But before we do, Kevin, do you want to outline a little bit about, because we're going to be looking at CloudWatch and specifically around metrics, just to give people a bit of background information on this?
Yeah, so CloudWatch, in case anyone wasn't aware, is AWS's native observability tool. And I think this kind of gets back into the question of like, the title is AI and ML, but we're talking about observability. You have so much data in in CloudWatch if you are an AWS customer running workloads, and it makes so much sense to leverage it. So every AWS service that you use will create vended metrics, and like you can use these, like Helen was saying, for so many different purposes, and everybody has them there. You don't have to migrate. You don't have to set it up. It's all just there for you. So in terms of like a data and AI strategy, using operational data like CloudWatch can be a really good kind of way to dip your foot into that. So I think it definitely makes sense to kind of like start with these metrics and some of these things you already have, and then you can do like take some of these learnings and use them with other customer data you might have too.
Yeah, and you mentioned vended metrics, right? And I'm just gonna like, maybe I should say it and then tell me if I'm right, guys, because I go down rabbit holes when I talk about CloudWatch and I get really excited about it. So vended metrics are the ones which AWS provides from services. So they're not custom metrics, which are ones that you as a user could set up based on your applications or whatever you built on some kind of instance or whatever compute you're using. These are ones that come from the service itself, right?
Yeah. So you have no choice. They are created for you. They are free of charge. They are just there. That's vended metrics. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, good.
Actually, one of the few things that are in every AWS account that's ever created, like no matter what, right, Helen? So maybe CloudTrail is one of the others. There's a few things like that, but definitely CloudWatch is one. People are using it whether they know it or not, kind of behind the scenes.
Oh yeah, and that happens a lot with CloudWatch. I think people don't even realize they're using it until they start to look at their cost explorer and be like, "Hey, what's this thing?" We should start checking it. Okay, brilliant. So, Kevin, ready to go into our first demo?
Yeah, let's do it.
Alrighty then. So, what have we got here? Where are we?
Yeah, okay. So we're in the AWS console, and we're just looking right now at all of the metrics that I have in this account, right? So I can make this a little bit bigger. And like we were just saying, you have custom metrics, which are things that you publish. But you also have vended metrics, right? These all come from the AWS services that you use. And just to kind of maybe even step back, like the word metric is referring to a time series value. So the classic one, like Helen mentioned, is definitely CPU utilization. That's what everyone kind of thinks of. But it's really anything that is measured over time, right? So for instance, I have like a Lambda function here I just clicked on, and I have a duration metric, right? So that's the duration that Lambda runs, comes in milliseconds. Now let's say that we deploy some new serverless application. We're using Lambda for something, and we don't know what is typical. Like, what is the duration expected to be? Like, if we want to alarm on this, which is a good practice, right? Because if we think about Lambda, you are charged based on the duration that it runs. So we absolutely want to be kind of monitoring that and keeping that under control. So if we went and just graphed this metric, which I've done, it's so easy and kind of a low-hanging fruit to set up anomaly detection on this, right? We just need to click on this little icon here. It'll load for a second, and what it does is create an anomaly detection band. And at first, this will kind of look boring, right? It kind of just matches the line. That's because this trains over time, and it will kind of get better and more accurate the longer it's running, right? So it trains on trailing 2 weeks of data, and so I just enabled mine. But what we can do is then we can just click this other icon here, and we can create an alarm based off the anomaly detection band, right? And we kind of have that here, anomaly detection. You can choose to go like whenever something is anomalous, or you can just do greater or lower. And you can also choose how far or how thick the band is, right? By just selecting standard deviations.
Oh God, you're throwing me back to when I did maths at university, saying standard deviation. But I'll try and put the PTSD behind me.
Don't get scared by it. It's just a measure of how far away it is. That's all. Don't worry about any mathematical definition.
Helen's there to calm me down. No mouse required.
No.
Great.
But you will see that it will go, the bigger you make that number, the further away that gray band will be. So you can be more forgiving. Your model says it's okay to have variety.
Yeah. So when would you want to go big and when would you want to go small?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think certainly like if something is like a newer workload and you're not really sure, you can make it like a little bit bigger, right? So you have a little bit more tolerance for like a false positive anomaly. But the more critical something is, the longer it's in production, you want to narrow that band and kind of be alerted the instant something is off, right? And I think Helen, let me know if this is your experience too. But I find customers really get a lot of use out of this when actually you can make this a composite alarm. So this can be one of the conditions, like if something is anomalous, and also, I have something else going on. I can go and create a composite alarm. So I can say like, and so like I can say something is anomalous and this other condition is happening, then I will alert my teams of it. Right. So you're kind of saying, giving yourself backup and you're more sure that something is wrong. You don't want to wake someone up at 3 a.m., an ops person, and like it was actually just some noise in the anomaly detection. So yeah, I find customers really get a lot of value of using the alarms like that.
I think
Composite alarms. Cool. I've never heard of that. Go on, Helen.
Oh, sorry, anomaly detection with composite alarms and a dashboard. Like I have this saying I use all the time is never alarm without having a dashboard. And once you have that dashboard, then you can see the trends of what's going on, and you can see those trends in the model too.
I'll pause there. I was like, Helen, your camera's off for a second. So when you jump back on, we'll keep going. But Kevin, continue with the demo for now.
Yeah. So in terms of the metric anomaly detection, I think the beauty of it is that is basically the demo. It's so easy and quick to just kind of quickly set this up and get started, and it provides you, just with a little bit more comfort in how you create your alarms and like you're knowing something is anomalous or not. Because at the end of the day, like what we find is that a lot of customers just don't know their workloads as intimately as we would like them to. And when you use the anomaly detection, it's just a one-click button, and you're getting quite a bit of value for your one click. And of course, this can all be done through infrastructure as code. Too, and I know I've been clicking around, but Terraform, CDK, all of this stuff supports creating anomaly detection, bands and alarms and configuring them. So it's a really great way to kind of just get started with this.
Brilliant. Okay. All right. Let's take some questions. So I've got a couple of questions to do this. This one, I'll caveat with see if we can help this person, but I'm not sure. Oh, wait, one sec. She's back.
Don't ask me. I work in tech breaks.
Okay, all right, let's continue. So we're just going to go into a couple of questions. I was just saying this one, we might be able to help with. If not, we'll drop the email to showcase how you can email in to get a question, which is, has AWS started sharing logs metrics for control plane of services safe EKS? Is there a shared responsibility model? So I would say the check-in is that you can enable control plane for your EKS. When you say sharing, I'm not sure, we're not sharing it externally, but has there been any updates on this area that you guys know about?
There was a really interesting launch at reInvent, which improved what is called container insights in CloudWatch. There's a lot more depth, and you can kind of drill down through your container metrics. So I had a play with that, and there's so much more information that you can get to. Like it's really quick to get that really top level view and to get all the way down as well. And it's integrated with some of the other newer features like application signals and stuff in CloudWatch too. I'm just going to throw in names and people can Google them later.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also those same types of control plane logs, like they exist a lot in other services too, and go right to CloudWatch. So, like for example, I was using Glue the other day, and like it will output changes in configurations to like a Spark job or something like that, right? So,
Mhm.
like a lot of different services just kind of integrate like that. Of course, it depends like how deep you want to get in like control plane. There is a line. But yeah, there's so many. Like it seems like every day I check in a new service is like outputting logs to CloudWatch. It's hard to even keep track of them.
Yeah. And always check what you've enabled. That's my other thing. People sometimes I've seen with customers, they enable all of the different logging and then they're paying for it all and they've never even used it. So always check with these things.
Or also enabling so many alarms, they have so much noise that they can't focus. Like I always say, have a plan and don't. Sometimes it's good to throw a few things on. You don't know what's going to happen and what you're going to do. But in general, have an alarm, have a dashboard, and have an action plan. And if those aren't all there, just don't go there. Because if you're fighting fires and noise, you're never going to actually add any value.
Yeah, that's such good advice. And on alarms, guys, as like a PSA, go and check your CloudWatch alarms. If you have any that have insufficient data, they're not going to alarm, but you're paying for them. Just I always find that with customers, and they have a string of insufficient alarms, and you're like, you can't do anything. Okay, what else have we got? So this kind of links to Kevin, what you were saying about having the composite alarm. So I want to bring this up. So what consequences have teams found when based a decision on AI-driven recommendations being wrong, and how has that changed teams' use of AI? I think that's for the general like chat answer the question. But I would say with the maybe with the topic we're talking about, how are the AI models learning? So Kevin, you said that there's like a 2-week look back kind of running over that kind of makes it smarter. Is that the same for all the different elements we're going to look at today in terms of the AI stuff? Or are there different kind of look back windows?
No, not exactly. So like later today, we're going to look at queue investigations that like looks at a much bigger base of data that's in CloudWatch. And we're going to show a different solution where we actually just on-demand generate a response of text for a dashboard. But in general, like, and I'm sure, Helen, you see the same thing, like our customers still want a human in the loop. So that's why I mentioned the composite alarm. Like it's great as a component to help, but you still want some manual things going on, right? You don't want, at least as of this time, we don't really see customers like fully having like a full alert remediation workflow with these AI tools. Hopefully we'll get there, but right now, like I think the key is to kind of like use them as a tool for you, not as a replacement for a human in the loop somewhere. Yeah.
And I think
100%.
it depends on what kind of checks you're doing. Like in your anomaly alarm, I'm just going to bring out one of the alarms you had in there was a synthetic. So for those who don't know, a synthetic is like a fake human doing what a human would do. So if I was back on that e-commerce site, I can create a synthetic that every hour goes and does a search, adds it to the cart, does a payment. So I have a constant pattern for what someone does, which means I can get a constant baseline. So what's really good about doing synthetics is because you can say, this is failing for my test user. Now that then is a much clearer decision than I have some infrastructure behaving differently than normal. So I think it very much depends on which signals you're using, how much you trust it. How certain is that it's causing a problem that you really care about? That's the hardest thing in observability. What do you need to care about?
That's fascinating as a concept of like what that is. So that's really cool. I never thought about. I didn't know that was a thing. Well, one more question, which is, can someone give me a quick summary of what we're doing? Yes, we can. So today we are talking all about how AI/ML is used to drive observability. Specifically, we're going to be looking at Amazon CloudWatch and what tools are available to help you understand your data based on AI/ML kind of areas so that you can kind of move faster is what I would say. So this is something that you can practically look at and then go and look at in your own account so you can follow these guides afterwards, which is a nice segue into our next topic, which is doing this stuff for metrics is great, but I have a lot of customers who want to do something similar for their logs. Is there a way to do it with their logs?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So Oh, go on, Kevin. Go for it.
Should I just start sharing, or yeah, Helen, why don't you give a little better intro than my one
I'll
word?
intro you demo. How about that?
Yeah.
So yeah, you can create an anomaly detector for a log group. Now with metrics, it's really simple, right? We've got a line and we want to say, where can that line go? Logs are a little different. So what happens in anomaly detection for logs is it actually looks for patterns. It tries to understand the patterns of the data you're ingesting and how many events sit in that pattern. And then if you think about it, we actually have a time chart. How many events over time are in that pattern? So we can have an anomaly against both the variation of that pattern, but also have we got new patterns? How are those patterns varying? Let me give you an example of a pattern, Steph. I'm going to go back to the e-commerce thing again, my favorite example. Let's say we have orders that we're recording, an event that says, here is an order that's put in, it has an order ID in it. That's going to be different for every single order you put in, but the rest of the message is going to look the same. It's going to say it's been placed successfully or unsuccessfully. So there we have variation within a pattern of an order ID, and we call that a token in CloudWatch. And so if those number of values change a lot, then that's also an anomaly. And Kevin's going to show you some of this too.
Perfect. Before we jump into the demo, I want to do one more quick poll, which is, let's see who in the audience has done this. So if you're joining us and you haven't seen this before, have you tried anomaly detection for logs? Drop it in the Twitch chat. 1 for yes, 2 for no. Let us know, chat, who's in the room has been doing this. And we've got a couple more questions. Keep the questions coming, guys, and I will make sure to throw those up in a second. And also, just as a PSA, if you are watching and we don't cover any of the questions or your questions today, please, you can always email costoptimization@amazon.com, and that will come directly to me, and I can help answer any of your questions moving forward. So in the thing, some people have, some people haven't. So with that, let's move over to the demo.
Yeah.
Right, where are we this time now?
Cool. So we're still in CloudWatch, of course, and now we are looking at a log group, right? So again, this goes back to, like I said, this is like an AWS service control plane log that comes from Glue. And I just want to quickly show like how to enable anomaly detection, because it is so, again, like we're talking about effort, and I think that's like a big thing, is that for people to use these, it can't be too high of effort. So like there's just this anomaly detection tag here, or a tab, and I can easily just go and create an anomaly detector. And you have a few configurations, like about how long or how often you evaluate. Again, it says here the smaller values may result in more noise, so that's kind of configurable by you. You can choose specific patterns to evaluate. So for example, maybe I only want to actually evaluate error log messages, right? So you could put like a regex pattern in here for error in all caps, or whatever your errors look like. And then only they will be evaluated. So you can say like I know I've developed applications where like it says there's an error, but it's not actually anything anomalous. It's not actually something to worry about, which is probably something that should be fixed at some point. But you really want to know those errors that just appear out of nowhere and are affecting your application. So you can choose to do something like that. And the end result of enabling this will give you kind of a screen like this, where you can go and look at all your log anomalies. And this is what Helen was mentioning. You can look at this kind of over time, and we can expand like this section, and we can see here, there's an error, unexpected pattern. And these are like the tokens that Helen was talking about, right? So we have the pattern, which is everything not in blue, and then the tokens that are unique are the blue things, right? And we can expand that and take a look, and we can actually see down here the log messages that led to this pattern being detected. And we can also take a look at the token values down here.
Just stop, Helen. What were you going to say? Sorry, before.
Yeah, I was just going to say, when Kevin was setting up that frequency time, that's like how much data you're going to put into one data point if you start to think about it going to that time chart. So it's how many, how long will you look to make one data point? How many events came in that pattern?
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and you can actually kind of see like what that time chart looks like, because I can take this anomaly detector pattern and I can create an alarm, right? So we can see the time chart and the amount of anomalies. And I think this is important because a lot of times I'll talk to a customer and they're using their logs for like post-mortem, like something happened and they go to like look at what it was, right? And which is important. But when you do something like this, you're taking your logs and you're making them proactive. You're making them work for you a little bit more, because you're saying when something is anomalous in the log file or the log group, I want to know about it. And you're creating the alarm based on that. And you can also feed back this, whether it was accurate or not, right? And this is a form of like training the model behind the scenes. This is a little bit kind of like more advanced than the metric one, which is based purely on math. Since this is a form of kind of like actual English text or whatever, this is more like you get to decide whether something is relevant or not, and you can make the model better. So that's really important. Like if you're going to use this, to go and make sure you're giving it feedback on what it's found.
So I want to jump into a couple of questions before we move on to the awesome blog that's going to link into this. So we'll kick off with this one. Is enabling anomaly detection in CloudWatch chargeable?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. There is, a small fee, like for both metric and log anomaly detection.
Okay.
So definitely, it's not something you just go and blanket on every single metric and every single log group that you have, right? You focus on the important things first. And, of course, with everything else in AWS, it's pay as you consume, right? So you can kind of have a lever on how much you're actually paying by controlling where you use it.
And if you want to know the details, the CloudWatch pricing page has all those details. But the good news for log and metric anomaly detection is that if you enable the model, it doesn't cost anything. It's only costs if you alarm off it.
Yeah.
So you can go and enable the models and explore the data. And that is included as part of what you pay for your metrics and your logs anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. And
so it's when you take action on them that you're getting a little bit extra charge.
Yeah. Just because it has to go and evaluate that model, at the frequency of your alarm, it's that usage thing again.
Right. Okay. On following up with alarms, another question: is it that alarms can be set up without a dashboard?
Yeah, totally. So alarms and dashboards are separate.
Okay.
What I was saying earlier is if you create an alarm, you should always have a dashboard, because an alarm will give you something has changed. Something you need to know that something has changed depending on your conditions. But what a dashboard enables you to do is see the trend. So I always used to liken it to when an alarm goes off, how do you know if you can go make a cup of tea? I'm Scottish. Tea is important to me. Is it something I have to jump on right now, or is it something that isn't actually that urgent but is trending up there? If I have a dashboard, I can look and decide on my priority and my urgency. So definitely separate. You can also put alarm widgets on your dashboard so you can see state of alarms, which is really nice too.
I think we might need to do a whole episode on dashboards. There's all this stuff I don't know about them. So comment in the chat if you'd like an episode on dashboards, and we will make that happen. Okay, and then we'll do one more post, this is very informative. Thank you so much. You're welcome. I'm glad you're enjoying it. And so let's move on to the next section, which is going to be talking a little bit about when we saw those, and I'll bring the screen back up. So looking at this, I'm not going to lie, that's a bit hard to read. So is there some kind of solution that maybe you guys have that might help me out trying to read some of this stuff?
Yes, there
Go for it,
is.
Kevin.
Yeah, I'll take this one.
What are the chances? Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a blog. I think Stefan will link it, or it'll show up somewhere. But basically, we created a solution to help kind of provide Gen AI based summaries of log data, and it kind of leverages this really cool feature of CloudWatch where
Mhm.
you can create a custom widget that is backed by a Lambda function. Um, and this is really kind of lets us do an architecture that is kind of like this.
Okay.
Um, if you think of it in terms of like web dev kind of terms, your CloudWatch dashboard widget is like a front end displaying some HTML, and your Lambda can act as a backend. So I have my dashboard, and I'm going to feed it like a variable, like a log group name.
Mhm.
And then we can invoke a Lambda function. And what we do in the Lambda function is we um, grab the most recent log events. I do 50 in the example, but it's configurable by you. There's a cloud permission template for all of this. And we're going to grab the log events, and we're going to invoke Bedrock, which for those who don't know is kind of our big Gen AI platform. There's tons of different models that you can use. Out of the box, I use one of the kind of small quick models. I think it fits this use case pretty good. And we're going to summarize that data and send it back to the dashboard. And we also cache that response in Dynamo. So every time you load the dashboard, you aren't invoking your model, which would be quite costly. I cache it by default for 30 minutes. You can change that if you want. And the end result is here we are looking at just the raw data of a log group, like a log insights query.
Okay.
And we can see CloudWatch does some things to make this a little easier for you to look at. Like it separates your fields and the values, but you're still missing like what ties all of this together. Like you're missing context, and
Mhm.
when you invoke Bedrock, you can create that context. So down here, I have the exact same log events, and I have a summary of them. And this is different every time, right? So I, to be honest, don't even know what this will say right now, right? It's slightly different, but we can automatically tell like this is running on Fargate. This is called an application called Pet Search. It's making calls to SSM and to DynamoDB. This is giving us like an average latency from an operation. It's giving us some errors that are occurring. And so we took all of this data, which
Yeah.
does show you that, and we say, Bedrock, give me a summary, and we can display this on a dashboard next to other metrics and traces and alarms. And this can be a really nice kind of way to quickly see what is going on. A lot of times in observability, we talk about MTTR, mean time to resolution. If you have an alarm going off and you can instantly see like a summary of what's happening in the recent logs instead of having to interpret them manually,
Yeah.
you can really like drive down that KPI and make things a little bit easier for you.
And two key points about this. One, we didn't tell it anything about our application. We just gave it our logs. And if you go and have a look at the blog and have a look at the code, you'll see it's a couple of lines of code to call the Gen AI model. So it's way easier to do that part than you think. And say there's a cloud formation, which means you can deploy this in your own account, you can play about with it and see what works for you. But it surprised me we'd had to do almost nothing to give it context. It worked it out for us. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I think, but as well from like my point of view, people who watch the show regularly know I'm not like I don't know a ton about Gen AI. It's not my remit. I know enough because I work at Amazon and we got to know stuff. But I think when I first heard about Bedrock, I was like, oh, the lift must be so much. But in reality, when you do start playing it there, and we shout out the converter we made for Kerr queries from, I'm wearing my Kerr hoodie today, from Kerr. The old legacy into Kerr 2.0, we made a Bedrock application that we just said, like, turn this into this. This is the old version. This is the new version. These are the differences. Do it. And now customers, rather than painstakingly have to go through all their queries, could just drop it into this thing. And it was such a quick concept. So hopefully, I mean, chat, let us know. Is anybody doing anything with Bedrock that's cool? I'd love to have some inspiration. We're trying to do more of it. So let me know in the comments. If you're watching us live, in the comments anywhere you're watching, or if you're watching us on demand, then please put in the comments, what are you using Bedrock for at all? What are your ideas? But this is so helpful, the fact that you can see this information so clearly. Go on, Kevin.
I think it's also important to note that this is just such a basic example. It's like a getting started. Like you can do so much more in Bedrock. Like this is just an out-of-the-box model. You could train your own model on your own logs and get better responses. You could incorporate like a knowledge base full of previous tickets or something. You can, do all of these different things that can take this to like a much higher level, right? You can vectorize this data in OpenSearch, which is just a way to make it kind of like faster and better to kind of give the 100 overview. Like you can do so many different things based off of this just core thing. But what I did is just super simple. It's kind of equivalent to pasting the log string into like any of these chat AI tools, right? You're pasting it in and saying, giving me a summary, and it actually works really well for this use case. And
great 3 o'clock in the
we
morning
can do a
saver.
few more things, like we can link to log insights, and so we linked directly, and this already has the log group selected.
Pre-filtered,
And one really cool thing that we have is a query generator. So for example, I want to go.
Wait, were these made by Bedrock or were they there by default?
So these fields were discovered by default. This is just an out-of-the-box feature in Logs Insights. And assuming you send a structured log, that will just happen. But I can go, and we have another kind of Gen AI tool embedded in CloudWatch called the query generator, where I can say in English, show me log events where HTTP method is a post request.
What does that mean?
I can hit generate new query.
So that means when am I sending some data to part of my website and asking you to do something with it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm the voice of the audience. I'm sure everyone was wondering that. And what's the answer?
Yeah, and what it does is it generates a query for you. This is great because people's whole job might not be to use CloudWatch. So like if that's you, then you might not know how to do this query. So you're saying in English, like, show me this thing that I want, and then it will just make it for you. It'll make the query, and then you can run, and fingers crossed, it found some data. And so we quickly like went from a dashboard with a summary of some things going on, and then we went right into a query for exactly what we want, all in natural English. And it's a pretty powerful thing.
Yeah, I love the more easy for people like me that you can make it, then the better. So let us do a couple of questions from the audience. First of all, can your AI tool know root cause? So it depends, obviously, I think, on what would cause.
We're going to talk about that in a minute.
That right? Perfect.
Okay, I've got it too early. All right. Okay, we'll come back to it. Stay tuned. Okay. One, and I'll take this one. I knew about customer detection feature in Billing Console, but it looks like you can enable anomaly for metrics in CloudWatch. This is a great insight. Thanks. So for those who don't know, cost anomaly detection, slightly different thing. concepts are the same, but that one's specifically looking at your spend. So it's looking for any outliers that were a growth or a spike. So people always ask me like, oh, my spend has gone up over time, why didn't it alert? It's not about a constant alert, it's about something that spiked that you weren't anticipating. But also, BSA, if you have an old Amazon account, you might not have this cost anomaly detection enabled by default. Any new accounts, as long as you enable Cost Explorer, will get that feature enabled. But just go have a look in your console and just make sure you could find that. Another question about your blog specifically: how much does your blog solution cost to run?
Yeah. So I did some math using the model that I used, which is called Claude Haiku. Like every model has different costs. The one I chose, we can invoke that summary 1,000 times for around $10 a month. So
oh wow,
it's not super expensive. Like, and we like I was saying, we cache the responses. So you're not just invoking it every time. You're just based off of your model usage with Bedrock. So pretty simple.
And of course, with Gen AI, new models are coming out all the time, and typically they get better and cheaper.
True.
True. And someone agrees that this was a very useful session. Thank you very much. Love that kind of feedback, guys. There's also a question, which is, when will this pre-built solution be inside the platform instead of a custom-built Ohm solution? My biggest recommendation for that, guys, is if you see anything like this and you really want it, speak to your account teams, push for any features that you would like to see in the console. We always listen. We always are customer obsessed. So your account teams can create product feature requests. You can email me at costoptimization@amazon.com and I'll raise it for you if you'd like. I do that a lot for customers. So yeah, check that out.
And also wait till you see what is next.
Yeah.
Which is, let's do that.
Great segue, right?
Yeah, great segue onto the next parts.
Okay. So the next thing we can talk about is something called Q investigations, which is part of this kind of AI operations suite built in CloudWatch. And this is an actual product. It's in public preview. I believe it's only in US East 1 right now, but it's soon to come to many other regions. And this basically does kind of what you, viewer, were just asking. Like, this is kind of a productized operational solution of our blog, which was kind of a narrow use case to see things on a dashboard. This kind of is a whole investigational incident management kind of platform. It's super cool, and I love to demo this actually. So if we have alarms right here, right, and I was just looking, we're like, well, so we have been talking this whole show about alarms and how to create them. Let's say I have an alarm, and this is for some API operation, and it's a Lambda duration, like I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
If we click in on this, there's a tab here called Investigate. And we can go and start a new investigation.
So before you jump into this, so the idea in this concept is that your Lambda, for example, the duration is longer than you had previously been expecting. It's kind of gone out of that range that we showed at the start, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you're kind of looking and you're saying, oh, I have this alarm that went off. Like, what's going on, right? And you can investigate yourself, but this is meant to be like an AI assistant for you.
Okay.
And so we can go and start a new investigation, like Lambda duration, and we'll just hit start. And we can open this in a full page so we can see it a little better. And what happens here is that when I did that, it came to this investigation kind of landing page for this investigation. And there's a few things going on here. So one, you can like link this investigation to a ticket, like in Jira or ServiceNow. This is super helpful. Like, this is probably what most customers will end up using who do this.
And when you do that, is that something that you do, it would do automatically, or something you have to set up once you've done the investigation?
Yeah, so you do it once when you configure the tool. You can integrate it into those
Ah, okay.
third-party tools, and it will kind of, you can say, just make a ticket each time there's an investigation.
Nice.
Yeah. And so what's happening is I have this observation I added. You can see my name here next to it. And what it's doing is it's going and it's constantly looking at metrics, logs, and traces for related things that could help you. And we can see here what it did. It went and did a log insights query, and it found some sample logs from this Lambda function
Mhm.
that are potentially part of the problem. So I can choose to accept that. And they will then show up here. See, this was found by Amazon Q developer, not by me. This was found by the AI. And so we have this kind of living document of, or ticket of these findings um, made by both a person, like I mentioned, human in the loop before, right? And an AI. And this will just keep going, right? So I'm not going to kind of sit here and watch. Let's jump to one that has completed.
Mhm.
And again, we can take a look. It started the same way, same type of alarm. It found some logs, error logs from Lambda. And then it started to find other metrics from the same period that are related. So it found some latency problems.
Ah.
Um, it found that there was a pod, a Kubernetes pod with a high CPU utilization. It found that trace request count was going up, meaning that there was probably some type of retry, like a loop going on.
Ah, yeah.
And then it actually spit out a hypothesis at the end. So multiple Lambda functions are seeing errors. This has resulted in an access denied when attempting an S3 get bucket, right? So it took you where you start with an alarm, it finds all these related things, and it will then at the end have an hypothesis that you can choose to accept, or you can say keep finding more and more stuff.
Wow. So with this, and I'm going to drill down into this kind of summary it's given you. In this example here, is it something that there's been a permit, like there is no permission set up for this, like S3 get bucket location, and then that's kind of caused the continuous error? Is that what it's saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
J-
basically, the Lambda is trying to perform an S3 operation, and it can't. So that is increasing the function duration because that
It's
operation
trying
is
to do
part of
that.
the Lambda function.
And
That
this can
is,
look at things like CloudTrail and config. So if you notice in the second
ah,
line, it says, due to an IAM policy change that removed the necessary S3 bucket permissions, it's actually telling you a change was made to the IAM permissions. And sometimes it will give you, and here's an automatic resolution that maybe you can run in SSM or something like that too.
wow. I feel like it's almost the first comparison I thought of is if someone like Agatha Christie is trying to solve a murder, and then someone's like, "Oh, here it is like the first page." Because just in like personal use, and people in the chat probably have experienced this as well. You get some kind of error, and you are doing all of these steps that the AI is doing, but it might take you days to be like, "Oh my goodness, somebody just accidentally wrote out the wrong policy, and it's caused this massive issue." That is amazing that it does that. So go and
Yeah,
try this on your accounts if you have a bug going on. Like that's
I,
amazing.
I think like a really nice thing about it that I like how they did it is it's not just like popping up in like what it is. It has this like documentation and that you are constantly adding to and looking at, and it's ticket based. So it's kind of like you have an incident and you have this like paper trail of what it is finding and what it's doing. It's not just like popping up and saying, "Oh, this looks like the problem."
And
Yeah.
It's like interacting with you as a human and your operations team. It's really cool.
the other advantage of having that too is once you fix the incident and you all calmed down and had some sleep, you can then look at it and go, what are the things we need to put in place to catch this kind of behavior again? And you've got all of that information there to help make a really good decision about what architectural changes, guardrails, alarms, whatever it is that you want to put in.
Yeah, taking it back to being like, okay, what the 5 what's kind of it's solved by this. So what do you do now is that next step, which is awesome. Right, we only have 5 minutes left, so I'm going to dive into a couple of extra questions. This one, again, thank you so much, everybody in the chat. Loving the conversation today. So much positive feedback. Thank you so much. This question, I'm going to ask, if we don't know the answer, I'll put the email address again. I'm pulling out random questions today. Can I use SageMaker to train the custom anomaly detection models on sequential anomalies?
So the metrics anomaly detection model is like a managed feature.
Okay.
So you can't customize that model in any other way than what Kevin showed, like in the logs one about saying yes, thumbs up, thumbs down. But
you can make your own.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
You could make your own.
Got too excited.
You could use Bedrock in the same kind of way that Kevin showed with the blog for logs, or you could go into SageMaker and, if you're even more experienced on the kind of data engineering side, that's when SageMaker would be the right place to go if you need something really custom. But I would caution against customizing too much until you see what works out of the box. And also remember that tomorrow, next week, next month, those models are going to be even better. So I would only create your own model and customize it where it's something really unique.
Something out of the box, perfect.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, what data can investigations look at specifically in CloudWatch?
Metrics, logs, traces, CloudTrail, and config, I think, right now.
I love that we're just trying to test Helen on her memory of the list.
It's always expanding too. I think that, the plan is to make this embedded in more and more places within AWS services. So you're going to start to see more and more things that it can look at.
And can I have investigations start automatically?
Yes. So like when you create an alarm, there's an option to just start an investigation as soon as it breaches. So that'll basically just do like how I did it manually. You'll have one for every single alarm breach, and it'll just start automatically finding stuff.
And since we mentioned cost earlier, can I add an audience question? Does it cost anything? While it's in preview, it's free. Go play.
So try it now. Yeah, definitely have a go. Encouraging guys, go and try this thing out and see. And if you have any feedback, like I always say, please share it with your account teams. You can always raise feedback on the console. Okay, that is coming up to being it. Thank you so much for the nice feedback. We've also said things like, thank you so much for an informative session. You guys rock. Love this. Kevin, this is very friendly and informative. And thank you for sharing this information. And the last question I'll show up, which is, this is very interesting. Is it being recorded and available somewhere to go through later? Yes, you can check this out on LinkedIn if you're watching that person is. This will stay on the LinkedIn Amazon channel. You can also check us out on YouTube and Twitch. My advice is kind of follow where you're looking, keep a link on this, or Google keys to AWS optimization, and you'll find all our episodes and back catalog. That is it. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. A last call. If you have any questions, check out cost optimization at amazon.com. And if you want to see what we're doing next time, check out the community.aws live stream for keys to AWS optimization. Or like I said, Google that. There we will be sharing all of our exciting topics. And I think next week we're having a customer come on and talk about their FinOps practice. So exciting stuff to come in the future. But that is it. Thank you so much for tuning in. And we'll see you next Thursday, same time. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.